And
Yeah.
here we go.
Here we go. Welcome to the, let's see, June 13th, Tuesday community meeting for Holistic Systems Cooperative. And we jumped in and we just got into this discussion about clients and about, how we're meeting clients' needs, who is our ideal client, who is not, how that's playing out with a couple of examples. So we jumped into this, and now for the recording, Newman was now going to jump in.
Bringing us up to speed. And one of the things that you'd mentioned was this idea of like send me the plan, like asking as service providers approaching a client or an existing client, and they're like, okay, well, write up the plan and send it to me. And it was sort of like, yeah, they kind of are wanting the strategy for free. And there's two issues with that. One, we don't know the need or the objective or the sort of goal. I think that's what you're getting at. And really that's just something I've been focused on, or it's been, resonating or sort of in my vision, is UX research, user research. And from my instructional design methodology, it's called needs assessment, where you do all of the interviews and groups and social surveys, like figuring out like who the audience is, and then this sort of idea of testing out assumptions. So you have this set of assumptions and you want to validate those assumptions before you put a lot of money into it. And if it's a small budget, it's not such a big deal. Like, oh, here's $500, here's $1,000. That's not such a big deal. But when you get into higher budgets where 5%, 10% makes a huge difference, then then it's much more important to validate. And that sort of gets into that data and whatnot. So, and then it seems like we get into the like, well, okay, if we're not in on the strategy, then we might we might just say, okay, you just tell me what to do and I just do it. I'm a kind of more functional. It's just, you need someone to do a post every day on social media, I will do that and I'll charge you for that. It's not as exciting. It's kind of the have we talked about this? The McDonaldization. It's just like, yeah, it's just a hamburger. Yeah, it's just some fries. I don't think there's anything, there's nothing wrong, wrong about it. But it's just really trying to figure out what game you're playing. What game we are playing as the client and what game they're playing as the So yeah, that was some thoughts. Oh, I see Natalie's got the choppy internet today out there in the countryside.
My muted. I get muted. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that perspective, and this is very relevant. I mean, this is very helpful for me. It's very relevant, all what we're talking about.
Right.
Zoe, did you?
Yeah, I guess
on that?
This is a conversation Rob and I have been like dealing with firsthand with multiple clients, and I'm just sort of envisioning there's a client who just wants us to be the button pushers and do the posts. And when we have strategy ideas, even if the strategy ideas are proved, like we've increased her numbers doing our strategy, they still would rather just lead the show and lead the strategy themselves with whatever's easiest for them, or I don't know why they choose their own strategy versus what we propose. But what I foresee is that if we keep being button pushers, the numbers will not look good, and eventually they will stop hiring us because it's not worth it. So it is important for us to have or propose or push for our strategy, because we might just become redundant someday if we just follow what they want, if they don't have a huge budget forever. Yeah, that's what I foresee. I don't know. We want to see those numbers go up. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, especially now when we need those positive numbers and case studies now, because we're still establishing credibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a good, yeah, that's sort of a good word. Like when you establish credibility and rapport with the client, I mean, it seems like then they're more willing to say, I mean, would they be more willing to sort of like, okay, it's stagnant, or like, what can we do? I mean, and you know, like, is that a way to get into that sort of strategy session to build a credibility, or that other way where it's just, you're just a button pusher and they don't accept you as like the higher, because it does take money, because to do like full workups and proposals, it might be, you know, double the budget. And it's, you know, like how to make that transition from the yard, you know, like the lawnmower pusher to the landscape architect, you know.
Mm-hmm.
From the guy banging nails on the building, and you know, to somebody like designing a big skyscraper, you know.
Making notes.
That's sort of,
Yeah, it's a good metaphor.
or you know, or like the metaphor that we've used around here before, like the handyman, you know, and like you know, like it's just a digital handyman, you know, just come in, handy person,
Yeah.
and you do the you know, leveling up, getting to the more executive function. Yeah, so that's a difficult one, and it's from my experience working with clients, that was always an issue. You know, the bargain, you know, you're always in a value zone, and those clients, and that's why a lot of the times they talk about like fire these clients and get the better clients. I think that's what you're talking about. It's like getting the right client, the one that's like, okay, and a bonus to being a part of cooperative, because we would, might have the research arm, or the power, to make bigger proposals, to do, to have the templates and resources to create these without having to like fully stop your operation and repurpose. That might be a real benefit.
Yeah. And it brings in a good point, right? For a place where, you know, like personally where I'm at, you know, which is like, okay, well, I need some income coming in, you know, no matter what, you know. So do I, like, as I'm learning, like, you know, do I, you know, maybe as I learn, you know, do I get more clear, you know, up front and say, what are you looking for from me? You know, are you looking for strategy, or are you just looking for me to like do what you want me to do? And then if I need the money, I'm like, sure, okay, I'll just tell me what to do, you know. But like, then it has to be a different Rob. There has to be a different Rob with a different hat on, because then it's like, I'm not taking responsibility for the success or failure of your business, you know?
Yep.
Whereas if I'm in there in the strategy, and I'm in there, you know, then there's more accountability on my part.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. But I think if I was gonna say, okay, well, I'll just do, you know, like, you want something from me, and that's fine, I'm gonna do it, I might be like, well, you have to pay my full rate. I would take less money to do the strategy work, you know, like per hour-ish kind of way. Yeah, it was more interesting. Yeah,
that is exactly. Then you become a very expensive nail hammer, button pusher.
Yeah, exactly. Natalie is popping something into the chat. I'll read that. It's an interesting reflection for us not having a clear oh, sorry, the heart moved out of the way. It's interesting for us to not having a clear definition of what we are rolling. So I feel like these people came in to help us flush out the boundaries. Yeah. Natalie, sorry, when you say of what we are rolling, is that more like what we are selling? Was that a typo, or is that a terminology that is that like slang?
I guess it was a play on words for like the roles. Like roles is essentially what we've been trying to define. What role does HSC play? And then, you know, it's just kind of that idea is like, how much do we offer? How many roles do we participate in?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, what roles does HSC offer? Yeah, thank you. Just making a note.
Yeah, it makes sense to me, like getting back into client work, like you know, working for someone in their business. And generally what, you know, I would do would be like web development, like web design, or I had one restaurant guy that he just had receipts, and he just wanted to see a graph of his income and stuff, you know. And then we worked into some other things. I tried to get him, this was early days of the web. I don't think I made an actual web page for him, but that's all he wanted. He's like, I've got graphitis. I need to see my graph. You know, his business was tanking, but you know, and he's just like, if I could just get it back to this. And that's what he wanted. He wanted me to come in, type all his information into a spreadsheet and make graphs and charts for him. That's all, you know.
Yeah. Jaquan, you have any thoughts on this? I know that you've been, you know, in various, you know, business realms and working with different clients, I'm sure.
Yeah, hello. I just am more thinking like have at least like a tiered service where you can have the direct service, like if you're going to do email marketing, you can have it a price, if you will, a set price for or a set amount of hours working on that. Affiliate marketing, another similar SEO marketing. And if you wanted like maybe offer consultation, and maybe the first hour be a free consultation for the first hour or something like that. But you definitely want them to have, I think they should have some type of idea of what they want, because that can lead more into, if they don't, then that's more like you trying to be a silent partner with, can get in the weeds, and then they possibly complain about some stuff that, you know, it's just, I think that's a bit much to offer if they don't have no clue of what they're trying to get, what they try to get done.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting, Jaquan. The like a client that really knows what they want versus a client that does not really know what they want, you know. You know, because I'm, you know, plenty of clients will come and they'll just say, well, you know, they defer. They say, yeah, do something for me. To use that landscaping analogy. I don't know, maybe a lot of my business experience was cutting grass, and but you know, they're like, just cut the grass, you know. I need this, you know, cut it from here to here. The last guy did it like this. You can do it like that. Or someone that says, you know what, I'm tired of my yard, I want it, or whatever. You know, who knows what their need or their motivation or the objective is. I know that one objective, and we're going back to lawn care, is they have to cut the lawn on like vacant lots, or you get fined by the city. So, you know, people will just be like, yeah, I don't particularly care. It just has to get knocked down so that I don't get fined. Some people are like, I want like this specific metric done. But that's interesting, Jaquan, the whole idea of a tiered service and the product menu. And then one other little thing, like the modern way, and Rob, this might help you out, because like the modern way of like the free trial, you know, that's a relatively new thing. Like where, yeah, I come in, I'm your button pusher, but then after 3 months, you know, a month or some certain amount of time, then, you know, then you have to pay my full rate. Like I think that's a pattern enough to where people would sort of accept it. Whereas before, when it wasn't a real pattern, they'd be like, wait a minute, like you're raising your rates. It's like, well, no, actually you've been on a promotional rate. The whole idea of the promotional rate is like a real thing.
Yeah, that's like the freemium with apps. And also the service I was discussing, I put in the Discord, they have, a 14-day free trial, then it's, $199 a month. You can do things like that where they can get a idea of what kind of response they will get or results they will get before they have to pay. And you can even possibly make it where they don't have to put in any credit card information as well, but that gets a little more tricky.
Yeah.
That's very interesting, because we're talking about like, how could you do a freemium model with services, as opposed to a freemium model with a product. That's very interesting. Because that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. The difference between a product and a service, and it's just like, yeah, you can try my service as opposed to a product.
Yeah. Oh, well, maybe you already said it, Newman. You're like, okay, well, I'm just going to give you a discounted rate. I'm just going to work by the hour. I'll give you a reasonable rate, for 3 months, and you can try me out, and then after 3 months, like we do a complete renegotiation, and what I really am going to want is to then say, how can I actually be of service and use strategy and get paid fully, use my real value.
And it's the two-way street of it. One of the notes that I wrote down was like the clarity of need, and we're asking the clients to have a clarity of need, like, well, that's what they want. But also we as service providers need to have a clarity of need. It's just like, well, is my need to work on interesting projects? Is my need to like get my water bill paid? Is my need to get this type of service done? Like maybe I really have a need to write up like this needs assessment report, or have a need to do a user test, a user testing meeting. And so, yeah, the two-way street of it is really important. So really figuring out what their need is and then what our need is, and then to see where they overlap. And then that's where it really, the magic can happen, that like a synergistic, their energy, our energy, my energy, and then there's some extra, that comes out of those two. Yeah.
Dude, that's really cool. I really like that. I mean, it's a very clear simple kind of framing of what that model could be. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've got to bring to the group today is sociocracy. I started taking the sociocracy course, like they've got a little discover sociocracy course. So I'm going to share it in the chat. I don't know, did you all share this with me before? Like, I don't know exactly how I got over there, but it's like a little three-hour free course. And let's see, sociocracy.
Yeah. Well, let's see if we need to, if anybody has anything to say or to write to close out this topic. And then maybe we can do, Newman, if this sounds okay, maybe we can do check-ins for everybody. And then,
sure.
And then I'm up for jumping on that sociocracy topic, because that is something that's very relevant to this kind of meeting. Does that sound all right?
Perfect.
Okay, cool. All right, so first of all, Natalie does have something to add to the conversation before we close up this topic. So I'm going to read this. Thank you. Getting the thumbs up to do that. All right, so Natalie says, often free stuff is taken for granted, like a free seminar. no one shows up, but if you paid full rate, you're more likely to show up. It's true. Or volunteering in a DAO, the work is hard to get done unless there is a compensation measured in the workload. Self-assigned payment is interesting too, if people have to define their own payment. Oh yeah.
That is interesting. Self-assigned payment. Like where
Yeah, there's a weird, it's interesting because, right, it's so true. Like free stuff is often taken, for granted as something, right? It's like perceived value. And then at the same time, like that freemium model works, but maybe it works because it's like you get it for a little bit amount of time.
Yeah.
And then it's cut off. Like we have something like a big value, you get it for a little bit, you try it out for free, it's like the sort of like, it's like a kind of guaranteed, and then it's cut off. I don't know. Yeah, it's the thought.
Yeah. And it provides the structure, just so it's like, there's some, it's like a push-pull, or there's some structure, like maybe some good kind of structure that just says, okay, here we've got a time frame or a number of hours or something that we can try to get things done, and then you renegotiate, or you iterate. So it's just like, this is a new cycle, similar to the month-long social media project. It's just like, okay, like we have a fixed amount of time to get sort of our needs done, and then we've agreed to come back, and then we'll try and we'll do a final report, and then we can see, and then we like, okay, these were the people on the team, this is what they did. It was like, here were the workflows. These were, like I like the idea of chunking in the time. I think that's a good part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and to go back to what Jaquan was saying, I think from discussions again with Zoe, and like, I think having those tiered packages, that say this is like, that have the outcome built into them. Like, I think that's like 100. That's number one. That's the way, what would be best to develop.
Outcome built in. Okay.
Yeah, because with that, the tier, whatever you charge, whoever participates in getting that done, that helps divide up what each person should be compensated. For if it's emailing, if it's just one person working on it, then obviously most of that goes to one person. But it's a way you can kind of give a equivalent, or give the role players, the teammates, an idea of what they can get paid for based on that tiered service. So at least coming in, new members can say, okay, well, if I'm in SEO and a project is asking for a service that saves $500 for a whole month, and it's going to be no more than 5 people working on it for the whole month, then that's $100 for the whole month that one role member will get paid. And then say it takes no more than an hour a day, 5 days a week, and it's 1 week really needed. Then you break that down, and the person think, okay, that's $20 a day I'm getting, and for the whole month. Maybe I'll do an hour and 15 minutes each week for 4 weeks. So it's just a way of kind of, breaking it down to, that's how I see it.
Yeah. That's really great. I really love that model, that idea. So yeah, I think that's something we can be developing. Okay, thank you all. That was juicy. I appreciate it. So why don't we do, because I know like there's been a few meetings, recently where we haven't really done like, real check-ins, because there's been, like urgent stuff. So why don't we just go through and, everybody can kind of just check in with whatever they like, and, whatever they're bringing.
How long should we go? Minute check-in, 15-second check-in?
I think maybe we give everybody a little more space, like maybe
Yeah, we got some time.
like 4 minutes, 5 minutes, if they want. Like people can do a minute, but like if somebody really has something to come and check in with, then I think maybe 4 or 5 minutes today we can.
Cool.
It feels okay to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anybody feeling inspired to start?
Yeah, let me go. I can jump in. A lot of stuff has been going on. I do have like a wave of appreciation. I'm looking at all these different groups, that we've all like connected into through this power of the interwebs. Technological sort of epochs just rolling. Web 1, 2, 3, 3.5, 5, all these technologies, all these things to get into, and all these faces and personalities. And it's, like, you all are my friends, my birthday's coming up. I always get squirrely around my birthday. I always get a little squirrely. And it's the summertime and I'm starting new things. So I just had like a wave of appreciation for all of that. And so I want to acknowledge that we're starting in this other, the sort of larger community that I'm involved with is Cardano, and inside of Cardano is this thing called Project Catalyst. Project Catalyst is an innovation and funding round. Next week, we're starting the process. There'll be a month-long proposal gathering time, and it'll, continue on until the fall, where we vote and people are funded. That's a pretty busy time, and it's a real like break point, like where like, okay, the people that I was hanging out with in Fund 7 are not the same as I was in Fund 9, and now we're going into Fund 10, and it's sort of like a watershed moment where you're like, okay, what are the projects and things, and just like the dance party, the song is going to turn, and everybody has like new partners at this time, right? And that's kind of interesting. And in that case, there's there's basically two communities that I'm starting to work on that are pretty exciting. One is a developer community doing Plutus, contracts on the Cardano blockchain. And then this other one is a thing called Odin, which stands for something like Open Decentralized Innovation Network. And they're the one that brought me this sociocracy course. And so I've been working through that and seeing that's like, oh yeah, these are the things that we've been working with. And my take on climate crisis and the sort of crisis that goes along out there, and thank you for giving me the full time. My take on all of that is really organizational. Like, it's not, even though I am very concerned with, like, for instance, homelessness or, economic inequality or transportation or, worm farming and carbon and regenerative ag and all these things, I really think that one of the core is organizational improvement, like the way that people organize together, because it's sort of a foundational thing. And that's what the sociocracy gets to, and to governance. So, in these communities we're calling this the summer of governance, because we're trying to take our community into a bigger or a more decentralized way, and trying to figure it out. We're doing all these workshops and stuff. So that's what's on my mind. And it's still a few seconds left from 5 minutes. So I appreciate you letting me to ramble.
You came with your own timer.
Yeah. Oh, let me tell you,
That's
it's
really
actually
professional.
it's actually one of the services that I'd like to offer. Is it's like I will sit and listen to you. I think it's on Fiverr. It's like I'll sit and listen to you for a set amount of time, and I won't react. I just allow the space. I will listen. I will hear you, but I won't. You're not trying to impress me. Blah blah. It's a technique. It's a technique.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. No, that's really great. Yeah, loved hearing it.
Yeah, it feels good. Feels good. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Who would like to jump in next?
I would.
Great.
I was just thinking about the blockchains like EOS with the Pomelo grants. Like maybe we should consider trying to get a grant through that, and Telos is another one. They have a grant program where we propose that, okay, for the grant, we take some of the funds and we'll offer maybe 30 days of services to the apps that's coming on to EOS and Telos, etc. And that will help market those applications, which will also help promote, the end with the blockchains themselves. I was just thinking that may be something we may want to consider, because that way through the grant, we can be funded and we'll promote those apps, and those applications will also recognize the blockchains that they're working on. So I was just thinking that might be something that maybe we should look into.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really cool. That's a great idea. And we've been kicking around the idea of grant writing and filled out a couple applications myself, but we didn't have that idea of really putting in there to like kind of propose 30 days of service to the apps on those chains. So that's a really interesting addition to that idea.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So thank you for that. And just to say, let you know where we're at. Like, I think like writing for grants and incubators and all of that, there's money out there. The challenge that we've been having is just that everybody's kind of been there hasn't been a person who's been able to fill that role as of yet. So
okay, well maybe we should use Fiverr.
maybe.
And ChatGPT, yeah, and ChatGPT.
Oh, definitely ChatGPT, yeah.
This will be the first funding round. Well, we had it. So this is very interesting with the ChatGPT. We had there's a couple of ways that you can make money in this ecosystem, and one of them is reviewing the proposals that go out, and people were doing it with AI, and the AI was just at the edge of like understanding. And I remember reading over one, and I'm like, this thing is like, it was just at the edge of understandability. I couldn't and I didn't want to be like angry about it. I was like, because it did make sense, but it was just, and I'd never really come across like good AI, generative AI before. And but this will be the first one where we've got really good indecipherable, and everybody, we've kind of agreed as a community, is like, we're gonna declare when we use AI, and then just let it go. It's just, we're gonna see what happens.
That's interesting.
But grant writing is a big skill, and it does take some dedication to do it correctly. Yeah. I don't know how. It's not something I wake up for in the morning. It just feels too much like school, and I just want to cut class. I'm like, yeah.
Totally. You have to find the person who wakes up in the morning and wants to write grants.
Yeah.
There's that person is out there.
They are, and it is, because it's super valuable. It's super it can be fun and creative. It can be a really cool process, I think.
There were plenty of
Yeah.
people who I went to school with who really liked school.
Yeah, that's true.
Some people liked school. They're like, oh, I'm glad to be here.
God. I liked math and I liked recess. I liked it when we did the.
Yeah, recess. That's
I liked it when we did the egg drop. I liked it when we did the egg drop in science class. That was always fun. Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. Zoe or Natalie, love to just hear your check-in.
Okay, you disappeared, so I'm not sure. Or is it easier for you to just use the audio, Natalie? Is that what you plan to do?
Or the
Yeah,
chat.
maybe.
Okay, oh, the chat, maybe the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go first then. Let's see, check-in. Same old, nothing too different in my life these days. It's nice to see holistic systems like packages coming together and having these conversations about tiers. And yeah, I've been working on my packages, but they're still not done. I keep changing them. I keep adding more tiers and taking them away, thinking, oh, it's just really hard. So it's nice that we're all sort of thinking about this together. Solidarity. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to work on my packages and consider tiers later after the meeting, I guess. Is there anything interesting to say? Nothing much. Still donating a lot of my time to my organization, international solidarity projects between social movements all over the world. It kind of gives me energy while simultaneously zapping all of my energy. I'm sure a lot of you could resonate with that because you're part of all sorts of projects as well. Maybe they're paying, maybe they're not, like this one is not. So yeah, to the activities that give us energy yet require energy, and hopefully we'll bring in paying clients soon so we could replenish our energy. That's all I really have to say. I haven't met Jaquan yet, but I hear your voice. It's nice to hear your voice.
Yeah, I'm just trying to stay in the background a little bit because I might be doing some Instacart. But I also I did 2 links. Skip, he's a big time YouTuber. They help with grant writing and they tell you a lot of grants that's available. And they've been doing it for years. And they literally can do the whole, pretty much whole thing with grants. And so and other funding, business funding, etc. So that's something that whoever may be interested, it's in the chat. The links is in the chat.
Oh, good. Yay.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
no
thank
problem.
you. Yeah, I got those. I'll check them out. Right. That's interesting to
That's awesome.
to say, oh, okay, yeah, maybe there's people that we can just hire to handle it. Which is, which is a great question. It's a question we're asking of people who, we want to be clients, which is like, hey, well, you want to do something, then you need to pay for it, make an investment.
And Zoe, I hear you about that sort of energy exchange in the communities, and it goes like with these sort of needs, goes with the sort of that like clarity of stuff. I definitely am sort of making the decision to not to sort of back off of one of the communities, one of my main ones that really brought me through the whole thing. And I was like, well, it's, it's a bit, it started there was a fracture and, and it's just sort of the dynamics. And what's happened is it takes more energy for me to manage all the other little energy for me to actually do the work. So I'm just like, guys, it's just not worth the stuff. But it has a real opportunity. There's opportunity in that, you know, like leaving on good terms, which it's my aim to do. And then, you know, it's like a principle. It's like the people that are there are supposed to be there, you know? So if you're not supposed to be there and you're just fighting it, then just don't fight it, you know?
Totally. Well, congrats on your decision.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Zoe. Anything else? Well, you feel complete with your share?
Yeah, I'll talk to you, Rob, later about Letitia, and I still have some questions about what she wants and stuff. Yeah.
The both of us. But that'd be good.
Cool.
Okay, Natalie, would you like to check in whether that's
I can try.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm doing good. I hear what you're saying, Zoe, about the projects weighing on. I ended up releasing seeds, facilitation, and just all the meetings for like the next few weeks just take like a huge space, and it's incredible. I'm getting so much done at home. A beautiful relief. With the deeper purpose of really establishing like a clearer, am I going, what am I doing with my daily energy? And Newman, I too have a birthday coming up in
We
This
lost
guy.
your sound. Go ahead. Okay, and you muted yourself, so maybe that's it. So Natalie, we lost your sound just as you were saying, but we heard everything. Just as you were saying, you have a birthday coming up, and then you cut off.
Well, I liked what she was saying a lot. Also, congrats to you for having all this time in your life now, making that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really
What? Yes.
well, now this is getting a little freaky because I have a birthday coming up.
Yeah, mine is June 24th.
Oh man.
Okay.
That's awesome. June 19th for me.
Wow, y'all really have birthdays coming up. Mine's July 1st.
Oh yeah.
Man.
Oh, Natalie, August 23rd.
August 23rd. Y'all said July?
I'm July. Jaquan and Newman are June.
Wow, that's super soon. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy.
No wonder we all get along. We're summer babies.
Summer babies. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. My Zoom booty me out. I'm just gonna read Natalie's comment. Her Zoom booty her out.
Oh, that's cool.
Storm is coming. Well, thanks for sharing, Natalie.
Interesting. I didn't know your Zoom could just mute you like that.
Zoom booty her out.
Yeah, that's
yeah, your Zoom's taking over. Thank you for sharing though. I appreciate, like your Natalie, your process here of finding like what activities are generative for you, and where what's in alignment, and you feeling the positivity of the activities you're doing, and all that. I appreciate it. Okay, well, thank you all for checking in. I'm glad to get those little fuller check-ins, Natalie. And if, of course, if you come back online, you can finish up or continue yours as well. Shall we jump into talking about sociocracy? And Newman, you want to lead us
Yeah,
on that?
here I can show. I'll share my screen. You can check this out.
Oh yeah, let me give you permissions. Okay, you should be good.
All right, can you see there?
Yes.
So it's the and actually I can post this in the chat too, so you can follow along. But basically it's their very first, and it's free, but a self-paced, e-course. Let me show you what it's about. And it's really well done, like high production value with these two. I think it's Lily and James, maybe. What is this sociocracy, some of the methods, principles, etc. I think I'm on the principles. Let me show you how far I've gotten. Basically, well, actually, one of the things I really like about this little LMS is they've got this little note-taking thing, so you can highlight and take notes in here, which is kind of fun. And I think you can see like my notes somewhere. But in there somewhere are the notes that I've taken. But let's look at some of the well, these are videos, but it's actually it's an old term. It comes from 1850s. The application of scientifically determined principles, promoting the interests of society as a whole. And it sort of came back around feels like it was in the 70s. But then, and they've kind of broken off. There's a thing called holacracy, and there's a thing called, there's another one, but this is the sociocracy 3.0 that is kind of championed by these folks. This is a highlight that I wrote in: sociocracy in action, distributing resources and power to influence in a way that enables people to create the most value possible with limited time, energy, and resources they have. Which, it goes into this, like what I'm realizing is my sort of, the thing that gets me up out of bed. We know that writing grants, not so much, but developing organizational systems does, because I feel like there is a system, like you can fall in, or you can create your own, like take control of your own system, or sort of get like involved in someone else's system. And generally when you're involved with someone else's system, it's not as, it might not be as productive for your needs. Oh yeah, here's sort of the timeline. Oh, it sort of came about some of like maybe the Quaker meeting practices, which is interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, no, well, that makes total sense.
Yeah, there's sort of a more whole kind of oriented, like it's not prescriptive, it's not like here's the thing that everybody has to do. It's not like maximal, like these are good and these are bad. It has a lot of like to do with fit. Let me I can pull in these method. Let me try this one. They've got, oh yeah, these 70 patterns. So one of the things that they talk about are actually these key characteristics. I'll go into these first, because these are the characteristics of it: versatile and adaptable, iterative and incremental, meaning that it's, there's these little cycles. But this is the one that I think is really important. Getting started with S3 is really quite simple. You identify and prioritize your areas of greatest need and begin with the most important needs first. Select one or more patterns that can help you meet those needs. So this conversation that we had at the beginning about clarifying the need of the client and clarifying the need of the service provider, I think really fits here. And then creating like a prioritized list, or just getting familiar, like yes, I do have a need for community, and I have a need for food, and at some point, when you have enough food and you're by yourself, you like go for a community, and when you've got a bunch of people around but you don't have any food, you kind of go for food. One of the things they talk about as someone that might be ready for this type of work, or kind of, you'll find that people, okay, so in one of these groups, the group that I'm leaving, one of the main people, you guys don't know these folks, and so I feel they're great people, but I've actually witnessed this. Well, actually, this one's a more where there's like fundamental things that people work with. I've literally tried to collaborate with someone that said, I don't do days of the week. Don't do it. I don't believe in it. It's not at the top of my mind. I don't do days of the week. And I'm like, that is so good for you. Like, right on, like, that's awesome. But I kind of want to do days of the week, like, I want to know, like, on Mondays we do this, and honestly, I'm not, that it's funny that I say this out loud. I'm like, yeah, wouldn't that be cool? No days of the week. Perfect. But, and in another time, there was someone that just really had difficulties documenting and working from a priority list, and saying, like, this is my priority, this is what I'm doing. She was very forthright in saying, yeah, it's really hard for me to do. So it's one of those things that, to work in this system, it's kind of necessary. It's interesting to think that, maybe not following priorities might be something that we're trained to do by our society, to like not sort of prioritize ourselves, and we work on other stuff. So that's this needs thing and how to start. I now want to go back into that those 70 patterns, which are pretty fun. So there's like, what we were talking about, the pull system for work. People pull in new work items when they have capacity, instead of having work pushed or assigned to them. Sort of self-assignment. I think that's a really good one. Building organizations, a circle and a role. They talk about circles and roles. A circle is a self-governing and semi-autonomous team of equivalent people who collaborate to account for a domain. I mean, do you think that's how we're using circles and whatnot? Yeah. I love the smallness and the sort of pared down. I can feel that that they have gone over this, and it feels the user experience of it sort of feels like, a well-used, loved tool. Like, I just feel like getting to know this course, getting to know these pages, like, I'll be able to sort of use this terminology, and then it's just, all of these are sort of an invitation to sort of, learn about, what happens when people get together. Describe organizational drivers, to understand, communicate, and remember them. Describe organizational driver. A driver is a person's or a group's motive for responding to a specific situation. A driver is considered an organizational driver if responding to it will help the organization generate value, eliminate waste, or avoid unintended consequences. Anyway, yeah, these, like, there's some, you know, a little bit of structure and a communication channel in these terms, and like set sort of patterns that I find really comforting, and like, oh, right, I could, you know, it's just like a, yeah. So that's what I've been working on with one of these groups, and it's something that I definitely, you know, I'm feeling resonance with, and it might be a big part around here.
Thank you. Yeah, beautiful. Thanks for sharing that with us, Newman. Yeah, I'll see. I mean, I certainly, you know, would have things to say, but I want to see if Zoe or Jaquan, yeah, have any thoughts around that.
Thanks for introducing it to me. I've never heard of that, so very cool.
Yeah, same here. It sounds interesting.
Yeah.
It seems like something that maybe Haifa DAO can maybe utilize and grow and learn from.
Yeah. I think they're all sort of cut from the same cloth, like all trying to figure out a new organizational structure. You know, like some of the other seminal works are like Reinventing Organizations, Teal organization, or what's the
Teal is right, evolutionary.
Yeah, or systems dynamics. What's it called? Something dynamic. Systems. I think it's systems dynamic. No, it doesn't sound right. It's a guy with a lady's name, like Claire Graves, I want to say.
I'm not sure. Wow, I have notes here from
Spiral. It's called Spiral Dynamics.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, Spiral Dynamics is a it's sort of that's where they get the teal for the teal organization.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
right,
I can share a document that has a bunch of links. I think, yeah, anyone can view this document. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll you know, share that document, respond a little bit. I mean, yeah, you know, up until I discovered, you know, I discovered all of this at the same time. I discovered seeds, Haifa, Web3, blockchain, nested circle, organizational structures, holacracy, sociocracy, teal. I mean, basically all just sort of like came through, you know, and I was, right, because I was trying to create, you know, essentially it was holistic systems. I was trying to create like these organizational structures, you know. I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know, and slowly but surely it was like, oh, it's not working to do it, you know, in this rigid way. We need more, you know, these roles, and you know, but it was like, you know, it was laborious, right? And then I came upon, you know, all of this, and I'm like, wait a second, people have already like freaking figured it out. They've already done it. Thank you. Thank goodness. You know, it's like I came, and so it was such a joy, you know, and I just dove in, and, you know, I did, you know, when I like learn a bunch of stuff, I'm sure Newman, you probably like this, you know, but I make like these research documents, you know, with the links and the, you know, so that way I can, I don't know, it's just, it helps me learn. And sometimes I go back to them, you know, and I'm like, oh, where was that thing I needed? Here it is. Yeah, so I really like, you know, that is like kind of, I mean, I think like, I don't know, I have not been able to delve into them as far as, you know, really how they're like in usage and actual experience deep enough to know whether I'm saying like, oh, well, I like holacracy over sociocracy, or teal organizations over, I don't actually think, to me, they feel like very, very similar. I think it's really just a matter of like, oh, we've developed it this sort of way, like they've been developing it, they've been working on it, studying it, that's been somebody's right, and we've developed it, in this kind of way, and it's a little different than holacracy or whatnot. But I think that they're of the same ilk, and yeah, to me, that's what I would like. That is the idea of, how I would like organizational structures to be structured. I'd like, my idea of how holistic systems can be structured and organized, and work towards that, and then then maybe in the future, if HSC is able to be successful, because like you, Newman, I mean, I'm really interested in that, in organizational design and structure and systems, and if we're able to be successful in this, then that might be, as people have suggested, that might be a service that we can help other organizations with.
Yeah, it definitely can become an offering. I never really made the jump to governance. I was sort of like, oh yeah, it's just how people get, and I guess, I don't know. I've had a much more embodied experience of the whole idea of governance. Like, governance was not something that got me up out of bed in the morning, like government class and, the field trip to Washington, DC was, like, it was cool. The buildings were cool, but I really didn't, I didn't have any kind of, but now I see it as really, really valuable and important in like everyday life, and I see it all around, and I do see them as like governance models, decision making, community opinion gathering, voting, the sort of transfer of power, leadership, deciding stuff. I think that's a real valuable and important part of society.
I just wanted to add, I think it's one of the glue to all of this is one word, and it's called incentives. Incentives. Everybody needs some type of incentive. That's what motivates to do stuff, to work, to even volunteering. The incentive might be to get some notoriety, to be noticed for what you contributed, So it's all about incentives, and it's not easy when you're dealing with like herding cats. Like Dow's is like herding cats. You want to spread the incentives around, but sometimes you might not have enough stuff, if you will, to spread to everyone, so everybody feels like they're valued.
Those incentives, and it is interesting. It's like, how can you incentivize a large group of people? And we've had really a lot of discussion about this term alignment, because alignment, can mean like lockstep, like rigid alignment. But in a decentralized way, alignment is more like a murmuration of birds, where they're in alignment such that they don't smash into each other and fall out of the sky. But there is a lot of this point it's been coming up to me. It's like, how do you incentivize a lot of people when you don't have a lot? And you actually mentioned it, Jaquan, is volunteering. Even in volunteering, even when there's no sort of financial energy transfer, there is a transfer of other forms of value and power and energy. But even when there is just a small one, I really want to do this in a community where, and just as a very practical thing, like, so there's 5 of us here, and so to like join the meeting, everyone pays 5 units of something, and it can be totally, Zoe bucks, every month everybody gets 100 Zoe bucks, and to come to a meeting, everybody pays 5 Zoe bucks, and so at this meeting there'd be 25 Zoe bucks, and then at the end of the meeting we would get it would be, like you would, anyway, there's like fun ways to do and poke around with this sort of financial transactional stuff. The idea being that there would be a random winner, that you wouldn't know if you would win the prize at the end of a meeting. I think that meetings that have a spin wheel are great meetings. It's just like, because then, and it's sort of like, well, I didn't win. That kind of feels a little bad, but not hugely bad. But if you win, it feels so good, and it's just like, oh yeah, we spin the wheel, Rob wins, and we're like, that's fantastic. Everybody's super happy. Rob's really, really happy. I don't know. I have to look through the sociocracy and see if they've got random spin the wheel as a pattern as part of their meetings.
Yeah, for sure.
Brain might be a little mushy.
For sure. No, I mean, we talked about that, Newman. I mean, I love that. I love these ideas, of, and Natalie put in the chat, like there's in Seeds, there's, there's the gratitude, token. And right, we talked about, that idea in regards to like resource sharing and, having a pot.
Yeah,
I love these. I mean, I think the more of those, that there are, the more, I don't know, the more fun it could be. But I also think, in Jaquan, what you're saying as far as incentives, I love that, and I think that is like directly tied in to, like what is value, which is like what Newman's talking about. So for me, it's like, because I think when we, in our culture, we think incentives, we go to financial incentives, that is the primary, incentive, because I guess our primary incentive is basic survival, right? But that's a limited, it's a limited viewpoint on value and what kinds of value there are, and what kinds of, and so what does incentivize, people. There's something, there's something where, like, I don't know, I had this thought one day, because there's, like there's the gift economy, and I don't know, Charles Eisenstein, was listening to him talk about the gift economy, and I started to think, there are billions of gift economies happening in our world all the time, right? Because isn't a family a gift economy, right? Like, what are children, and what are like our elders? They are not profitable. They're the opposite of profitable. So why do we even keep them around? They are not, they ruin productivity, they ruin profitability. They are not, so like, what's the point? What is the point? But everybody, but we take care of them, right? So there's got to be other value,
Oh, here we go. Jaquan shared a link, pooltogether.com.
Savings protocol based on premium bonds. Interesting.
Yeah, and this, there are, like, thinking of these gift economies, there's like an established gift economy, like, it's kind of scammy because it basically involves everyone gives money in, it's like a mutual benefit type of, like an insurance. Everybody gives money to a certain person, and they hold on to it, and every month they give out like randomly. But inevitably that person, takes the money and runs off at some point, But with these smart contracts, I guess you can still do it with the smart contract, but there's, we're kind of evolving like the technical expertise you need to run off with the money. But yeah, there's these new ways of collecting the little teeny bits. And isn't that what like the attention economy is? It's like every little teeny bit of attention. Just that, like when you log on to your favorite social media and you spend a minute or two or 2 hours, you went on there to see, what Zoe was doing. Oh, I want to check, Twitter, see what Zoe's up to. What Seeds, posted. Did the Better Worlds YouTube drop? And then you end up you're distracted and stuff. But those little bits of attention really add up. And so like taking control of that incentive model and that sort of organizational way of doing it, and working with it, you know, like embodying it and playing with it and planning it and seeing how it breaks and iterating it, making it a loved pattern that you know how to do, and that you recognize it when you're involved in it. You're like, oh, this is you know, a pattern that I don't want to be involved in, or this is an appropriate pattern right now. Like this, we shouldn't be you know, dividing everything and putting it here. It's like, no, this is a time to be doing the other thing. But getting, like, learning how to use these big systems that are out there. And we can do that by making the systems small, getting them into a playground, and then iterating them, and over time and time and time. And then we get a better sense of them.
I wanted to add, that pool together, that has been out for a good amount of years.
Yeah.
That's something that we may want to consider with the clients, because you can say, okay, all our clients will take 1 to 10% or whatever, put it in pool together. And each month it's like either a cash back once a month or once a year, they get some type of like an e-base of cash back. It's like cash back marketing.
Right.
So you'll get some of the money that you spent, you'll get some cash basically back. Yeah, y'all may want to look in the pool together. That's been out for a long time.
Yeah. I think it has this, there's a word for it, and it's something that like there, it comes from a different, there is a cultural, like historic thing. It's been around, like they've been doing it for a long time. If I understand it correctly, we'll see.
Yeah. And you know, I think that's, you know, that's another way. If you have a community that has, you know, a large enough amount of, you know, trust, that's another way to share resources, right? Because I might want to be, you know, like in Ethereum, you know, have a stake in Ethereum, you know, and then that's an investment, and I could, you know, just make passive income that way. But I don't have, you know, 32 in Ethereum to do that. But if you get a group large enough, you can, you know, invest together, right? I mean, I guess there's a lot that's happening a lot these days, you know, with fractionalized investments and pooled investments, and think that's what Jaquan is bringing in here, you know.
Yeah, and that we could turn it in reverse. So like a fractionalized investment, somehow like just like making it, you know, multiplying by -1 for the math folk out there, you know, like flipping the Uno opposite card on it, like the savings app where it rounds up and, you know, like your change, and it just like little teeny things, like a little by little, a little becomes a lot.
Yeah.
So it's like one of these like, you know, you can buy, like, fractionalized investment to me means I can spend $100 and buy like a fraction of an apartment building in Phoenix or something. You know, and so, you know, and then if I compound in, you know, then, you know, like you know, compound investment, all these investment things that are becoming more lived, more you know, like closer to us, where that used to be something that just big banks and, you know, investment folk did, but now it's sort of democratized with all of the dangers that go along with that. They're talking about the crypto boom of the last few years was just funded by U.S. Pandemic subsidies. Everybody's basically getting free money, and they didn't have anything to spend it on. They couldn't go out, they couldn't buy stuff and do anything. So they just bought cryptocurrencies, and they were saying that this was a big support and kept these things going. Yeah.
Interesting.
But we live in a time where we can spin these things up and work with them, you know, like where we can get communities together and play with these things, and in the most high ideal of playing with,
Right.
You know, we can make our own current. I'm still blown away. And I'm kind of getting back to like my first blush, like why I liked cryptocurrency. I was like, I can make my own money and work with incentives and play around with this stuff. And where might that take us to do these little experiments?
Yeah.
And
I
that's
like what you
want to do.
Yeah, and I like the spirit that you brought, like in our conversations around that, is like, using like the tokenization, of value exchange, as experiments, and as play, rather than,
oh yeah,
as like, oh, okay, let's experiment, let's explore and see how, like, right, how we can work within our, what we're trying to do anyways as an organization and our value systems. And
well, I think you might be pointing to the fact like some of this, man, is so serious. I went on to some Twitter spaces and, they're like really taking it seriously, getting on the white list and FOMOing in. And I'm like, oh man, that was so like 2 years ago. It's like that we don't do that anymore. I thought you guys got the memo. We don't really do that anymore. At least for me, I don't know, maybe it's just because of, my gray beard and I do feel it's, especially watching the market fluctuations. Cardano, my sort of main crypto has it's just gotten destroyed in the markets in this week, and it definitely messes with me, because I was like, oh, it's worth it's worth $1. That's kind of what we were like, okay, we gotten used to sort of like worth $1, and it's like, well, weren't you paying 5 and 25 cents for it? And it's like, well, yeah, I guess, and that made it feel good, but then it goes up to, and it just fluctuates around, and then eventually, one learns to not let it mess with you so much. But that's why the ability to create our fresh tokenomics, and then really experiment with it, like don't like not to turn it into dollars or old money, but to really have fun with it. There's a governance token or a contribution token at a community, and they're like, it's just made up money, and there's billions of them, and people are really like hoarding them and like trying to get the most sort of this and stuff. It's like, there's a mountain right over there. You can just ask and you can get more, it's just silly. It's just silly. The whole thing of it is silly. But I do think that there is a lot in like the way we organize, the sort of transactional nature. There's people out there that aren't doing the days of the week. Like let's get all those ideas in here and see what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. These are great discussions. I love these meetings because we're having great discussions. I want to bring in, I'm seeing that it's, it's 4:30, and I actually think, if we had this kind of, rough playbook that we set for these meetings, we were talking about, first doing the human heartbeat and the organizational or structural heartbeat, and then the, more practical heartbeat. And, it feels like actually we've been following along just naturally that playbook, really. Because I think that's, what we've been talking about is our organizational, structural pieces. So I'm wondering how people feel about, for this last time, jumping into more practical and, talking about, because especially, everybody here is, is working on some practical pieces within HSC. So maybe we go around and, talk about like what projects we're on, what we're thinking about doing, what, like, I don't have exactly a game plan, but what roles, we are inhabiting, what roles we might want to inhabit, anything as far as like practicalities, projects, that we're working on, or we want to, suggest, and where we're at with like trying to get holistic systems, the business model, really functional. How's that sound?
Sounds perfect. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yeah. I'd love to go first. I'd love to go first.
All
So
right.
the project that I'm working on is a project management role in the BW marketing group or project. This is it's basically to promote in a limited scope and a limited time scope and a limited sort of frame 2 products from the Better Worlds group, and that is a Green Planet, Blue Planet, BP, and another. What's the other one? Do you remember the name of the other one?
Oceans is the
Oceans. I think it's called. Yeah, I think it's called Oceans. Yeah, and it is basically a series of podcasts and interviews, YouTube interviews. And there's actually a pretty big chain of development, and there's a quite a number of folks involved. And basically my role is project management, meaning to get the container of it set, to build out some project documents and do some documentation. And then with the overall goal to build out some documentation and a playbook such that it can be repeatable, again, to sort of iterate and do it again and again, so that it becomes a sort of natural operational heartbeat and doesn't require so much input energy. Now, I can report that the energy of the project manager role, like this team, they all have worked together before, other than Maggie, the analytics person, and she seems to be doing fine. I'm due to check in with her. But the work has been done. I've been checking in on it. They've developed a couple of operational documents, and it's going pretty well. There's a Google Sheet content calendar and a Discord channel where they're doing most of the communication and coordination. So yeah, that's my sort of report there. My next actions there are to start getting, because the project ends July 1st. So I wanted, sooner rather than later to get like the documentation in place, get the playbook set up so that I'm adding things in. It's not a last minute thing. So there's that, and then doing I thought that once a week type of meetings, but I think like a meeting in the next week might be good, just to sort of like have a middle of the project sort of check in, in this way. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Newman. Who's up?
I could go. It's pretty quick. Let's see. So Rob and I have been working on updating our respective pages on this HSC website, and sort of thinking about, not just for us, but for all team members, how to frame it. Like, are we individuals, or does the service page have one individual's bio on it, or is there a team, or is it just a service page with no bio? Are all our bios together? So like kind of exploring what the implications of each one. And for now, we found something that works for now, because we're trying to get jobs for me and for him. So we're going with that for now, but at some point when the teams expand, and maybe Maggie wants to join social media team or something, or actually all of you are on the social media team for Better Worlds right now. So yeah, social media is going to be a large page then if we have all our names there. Or so yeah, evolving conversation. We're not totally sure. but yeah, Rob, as always, is just super clear-minded and leading. Yeah. Yeah. Like you know, I see every time we meet, you've always done like a huge development on the website or tried out something new. And then we discuss it, but there's always like impressive amount of work done every time we meet. And then what am I doing? I guess, I don't know like how honest we are in these meetings, but one client did close the doors, or they left HSC. So we're kind of navigating that. But yeah, it's like what we were talking about earlier. Maybe, I mean, definitely it's not the right kind of client. They just wanted us to be button pushers. And you know, I'm still considering being a button pusher for this client, because money. But yeah, Rob is, you know, also exploring a lot of new potential clients as well. So making space is another theme we've been talking about today, making space for the new. So yeah, those are, yeah, I hope that was eloquent enough.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Thank you. It was very eloquent enough. It actually popped in something where I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be great to check in with the group on. And yeah, I'd like to, well, let's, so Natalie, thanks Zoe. Natalie popped in something on the chat. So I'll just read that. Natalie completed an hour-long edit for Green Planet, Blue Planet of this Jay Samit episode. So Natalie has been you know, working on actually, you know, doing editing for the podcasts, you know, in the hopes of, right, that being you know, something that turns into a, you know, a paying gig. But she's having issues with the internet in her rural Alberta Plains land. So this is something, yeah, I mean, that's a big piece, Natalie, just to say, like, in my perspective, you know, thinking about moving, you know, so, you know, so that way you have better access to the internet, which is interesting, right? Because that's something like, you know, like it's right for like my job, like it's a requirement, you know, so it's interesting. You know, and probably, I'm sure, I'm going to just assume, you know, probably plays into, you know, this process that you're having of figuring out where, you know, where you want to be. So, and then for the role wrangler, Natalie needs to sit in with Rob and whoever wants to join and go over some details, like in Airtable. She tried moving things around and noticed the platform duplicated a lot of changes in the main view, even when I'm just working in my own view. Yeah, for sure. Right. There aren't actually like own views in Airtable. It's all kind of one thing, but it sounds like, you know, so it sounds like Natalie wants to, you know, continue to explore this role wrangler role, which is exciting for me. I have not been wanting to be like, hey, you're doing that role, you're still doing that, and you know, that kind of person, because I want you to, you know, be where you're in alignment. But yeah, absolutely. I think that the role wrangler role feels to me like as is her emoji, feels to me like it's as you know, valid and relevant and necessary of a role, you know, whether you know, Natalie, you feel like you'd be able to fulfill that now or not. So that's great. Let's connect. I'm getting a thumbs up from Natalie, so I'm gonna assume that means I translated well enough.
Yeah, it's awesome. Man. Thanks, Natalie.
Yeah, Jaquan, you know, I know that we just you know, have sort of just started to work together as far as like practicalities, but we've already sort of talked about beginning a project. I don't know if you want to mention anything about that or anything else, yeah. Practical, tactical.
Yeah, we spoke about the SEO in my future you know, plans to help with whatever website, you know, our website we use to help rank it. And I was just saying, I thought probably by middle of August I could be able to do that, you know, because it's some cost in providing that type of a service, because SEO is a little more of a longer term marketing technique or online marketing. It usually take a good 3 to 6 months to start really seeing some good results in. But also I was talking to you about a possible role in the reviews, the link I showed you with the review service. And I'm gonna be promoting that this week with a service called Udemy. I think it's UDIMI, and it's people that have their own email list, and you pay them, and they'll advertise whatever to their email list. So I'm gonna try to do that hopefully tomorrow or Thursday, and then maybe next week or so I can give you an idea of what kind of results I got from Udemy, because that's email marketing. So that can be something that can help us, not just with clients, but with possible getting new members or finding clients. So yeah, Udemy, it's usually about $40, $50 for somebody to probably email blast to their list about 5,000 or 10,000 people or so. And hopefully you get at least one paying member, but you definitely will get some subscribers to your whatever your list is, a captured lead page, etc. So but I'm promoting that service because it's a $14 free trial to help you get good reviews on various websites like Google, etc. So yeah, I'm hopefully I'll
Uh-oh.
I think he might have left the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And he'll be on the mobile network in a second here.
Yeah, exactly.
But
But thank
curious,
you.
Thanks, Shaquan, if you can hear us.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're back.
okay. My Wi-Fi.
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So hopefully, by next Tuesday, I can give you. See, that's the Instacart trying to get me to do more work, but
Nice.
yeah. So hopefully, I'll have some good reports on how that's going next week. And like I was saying, with the SEO, you will want to do some social media marketing with SEO. That really helps your SEO, trying to rank, and it just helps. And then if you add in certain reviews, that's another lane that can really help business, get more clients. So that's what I'm up to.
That's cool.
Cool. Great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to see if we can't try out SEO and for the Holistic Systems website, right? And also use that as a like you talked about yesterday, use that as a way to for us to explore working together on a project, and then that's a way to have another use case for Holistic Systems, and say if we're able to be successful with that, then that's something that we know that we can then we have more confidence in providing, and of course bring in clients or bring in leads. So yeah, thanks for that. On our front, and Zoe, you presented everything well, and I don't think I heard the fact that we're like really cranking away on getting HSC social media. Like,
Yeah, right.
It's not out the door yet, but I feel like the door is open.
Yeah, and our case studies are starting to look really sexy.
Our case studies are starting to look really sexy. Yeah, we've got case studies. We've got 3 social media case studies, and I've got now some some like 5 other case studies, and I'm putting all that up on the site. There was a push to do that for today. Getting some testimonials. So I like, I think it's great timing. If Shaquan is saying that it's helpful to have social media tied in with SEO work, well, that's great. There's this great timing. And what Zoe brought up was something that if I think we have a little time. I would love to hear if folks are amenable. I'd love to hear Natalie, Newman, or Shaquan, if you're able to see, chime in on a question that came up with Zoe and I the other day. So if that sounds cool, folks, I can
Do it.
share my screen. Let's see. No, I'm sharing the whole thing. Let's share that. So here's the thing, right? So I'm trying to be brief, but basically Zoe, so what we're doing is, because we don't have like a holistic systems, even though this is we're sort of saying this, but really as far as targeting people, like we don't have like a big holistic systems. Hey, we can like do all this stuff. We're not even like really like have like, hey, we're a marketing agency with a bunch of people, right? So the idea, you know, as we talked about, you know, is to develop each of our own sort of individual brands, you know. So there's the Zoe social media person brand. There's the Rob now marketing automation. That's what I've narrowed down to. I've been beaten over and over and over again.
No, come on.
Forced to narrow down to something. But, you know, I got to be in line with reality. So, all right, so marketing automation. So now I am a marketing automation expert. You know, and so like our brands, and rather than saying like we're promoting holistic systems social media, because then feel like it's still like a bit more of a challenge, and then there's more like kind of expectations, you know, that there's, you know, because we don't have that, right? We have kind of Zoe, and then if other people can come and help, right? And Newman and I talked about this could be, you know, Newman, online course expert. So the question really, you know, the idea was that I was thinking was like, okay, well, we're going to have like, we each have like separate websites, you know, so I have my Rob Hurwitz marketing automation website, and then that can then link to HSC. But what Zoe was, oh, here's like a new little website portfolio thing for stuff we've done. Still wants to change. Let me see. Sorry, let me go to this thing. So Zoe was saying, hey, I don't really want my own social media website. Could I just have it with, oh, here we go. You know, could I have it with just in HSC? And that brought in this question for us, you know, so which is the question, right? So here's like this is like as if this was her own website, but it's in HSC. We may be able to, like, we're thinking about maybe taking out the top bar, you know, so like Zoe could just give this to people and be like, yeah, this is my website. It talks about her. And the thing is, it niches her exactly. It's like, because Zoe has a particular brand. And so this allows us to target specifically Zoe's ideal client. But then this connects to, you know, when we say, then we're just going to say, okay, well, what are the services we provide? You click on this, and then that will connect, then that will bring you over to like kind of the HSC services. So, you know, it might be, and then be the same thing with like a Rob, you know, with a Rob Hurwitz, right? So I'm marketing automation. So, you know, I have this site, you know, people come to it. It's a place to like bring like my like particular leads, okay, about me, right? So you get the idea, but the question was like, do we have a Rob Hurwitz separate site? But then if I'm promoting Rob Hurwitz, then do I need to have a separate social media? Do I need to have separate Rob Hurwitz social media channels? And then we also want to have HSC. And then we're like, well, that's a lot of stuff. Even though you can put the same content on, that's a lot of double dipping. So could we, you know, the current sort of thought is like, okay, well, can it all just go through HSC social media channels? But Zoe is putting out that social media info, you know, like posts, specific posts. Hey, do this, don't do that. Rob's doing the marketing automation, you know, whatever. You know, Newman's doing online course, you know, stuff, and then we're doing general HSC stuff. So we're trying to figure out, like, does that fly? Like, do you all think that flies from a customer experience standpoint? You know, it's
yeah. I think it does. I mean, basically, it's just having a portfolio, an individual portfolio page or we use the term shingle, but a listing or something that you can share. You can say, if you run into a client, you can say, oh, here's my link. And as opposed to a page like this, where it's like we're all a part of a team, but you can also go directly to, and it sort of stands on its own. It's kind of a self, like, so someone could go to it and just say, oh yeah, this is what I want, and then click the contact type of thing.
Takes you to like here.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. It doesn't sort of break any metaphor or anything like that. I do think that it's important for us as service providers to, maintain and keep a fresh, like your focus. It's just like, yes, marketing automation is like what your focus is this season, and to craft your front facing portfolio or image, to the client, so that you can give them something, and that becomes your sales funnel, or your like does all those things. And I think there's a benefit of having it on HSC, again, because it says like, oh yeah, you're a part of a team, you're part of a network, you have credibility, you have trust. These people trust you. You're a part of a thing. It's not just random guy.
Yeah, I agree. As long as it's in the marketing arena area, I agree with all of that. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we're really trying to figure it out from the the customer viewpoint, because because Zoe is going to have her own personal channels, but or her own personal, but like if it's and I'm going to have like mine in some ways, but like I could still link it all. I'm like, well, my website is like you go here and this is my website.
Yeah, I don't think that's too confusing. Like immediately I'm like, oh, well, maybe it's confusing, or is this the same person? As long as they fit together and they make sense, I think it works, because then it's more, again, it kind of adds to the credibility if they're in harmony together. So if you go to the HSC page and it talks all about XYZ, and you go to your homepage and it doesn't mention XYZ at all, and it just says ABC, then you might be like, oh, what's going on, or something.
Yeah.
Then there might be some confusion. But I think that as a client looking for service providers, I think if I see someone, I do a search, or I get a link, then I just go there and see. And if I do a search to do some due diligence or whatever, and I find multiple things, as long as it's all of the same, as long as it fits and it makes a cohesive narrative, then I'm cool with it, I think.
Yeah, I like that. Makes a cohesive narrative.
Yeah, it's telling the same story. But if it starts off with an action movie and it ends with whatever Oscar nominated drama, you're like, what just happened? It has to start one way and end the other.
Yeah.
And that's really just internet presence kind of work, making sure that your search is all of the same thing, or you kind of you address your totality of what you might find on the internet. Like if your number one search result is your MySpace page, where you're like fully into punk rock, and it's your band page, and you can then on your marketing page is like, well, I was also a member of this band, and here I am in the mid 90s, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I also wonder whether it's beneficial or harmful from an SEO standpoint. If people are on the, you know, rather than me having my own, like, you know, me having my own marketing automation website, you know, so.
Yeah.
You know, because that's the SEO there, the keywords is all going to be marketing automation. That being said, if I have a you know, a site here and it's, you know, in this area, it's marketing automation, there's 4 other pages that talk about marketing automation. And Holistic Systems has a good web reputation and a lot more people are linking to it, it might be helpful. I don't know. That's an interesting question. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there already is a social media team, like the Better Worlds team is doing social media.
Yep.
So that means this page might very soon, sooner than we expected, not only apply for me. So maybe moving toward having our individual pages is something we have to do soon.
Well, I think that and before we break, I want to read what Natalie said, but yeah, that's a good point. I think in my mind, when it turns from Zoe, you know, or Maggie or whatever to the social media team, is when there's enough. It's not when we have the people, but when there's enough deal flow coming in to support the team. When we have social media team products that are like ready to roll and that are bringing in income, because I think that's why. I don't know. I mean, I'm open to other ideas, but I think that's the reason why we're saying, oh, okay, it's actually going to be more effective for now to target just Zoe, and for Zoe to do her own targeted, you know, ads and own targeted, you know, and bringing people through there, you know, and Rob to do his, rather than say, you know, just because like we have 3 people or 4 people who've worked together, you know, like on a free job for a month, you know, that doesn't mean we have a social media team product or service that's, even though if somebody's like, hey, do you have a team? Great. Yeah, of course we do. We're ready to go, pay us money. But like from a sales standpoint.
Right.
I think that's my thinking behind it. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that goes along with kind of like what we have been talking about, you know, which is when Zoe has super clear packages for her work and knows exactly how long it takes to do that, what that costs, and then Rob has that same for him, then we can combine, you know, because combine those into larger packages.
Cool. Okay.
I think, you know, yeah, that's my thought. So Natalie was saying, that she'd like to walk through the site and make sure that, you know, to get the sense of the flow, which I think, yeah, is like a big yes.
Makes sense.
And then, but she likes the idea of the specialties being featured, you know, so it relates to each person's skill. It relates to the Skillshare idea too.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, that Skillshare I think is going to be cool. And it would be nice to get that into like that document, you know. Yeah, that does, it all fits in together, because basically we want to motivate each other. We want to incentivize each other to building out our offerings as service providers. You know, so that we sort of go, you know, are helped into the role and then help to sort of structure it in a way that we can do bigger, better, more efficient work. You know, either solo or in teams. You know, like I think that's the mutual benefit, the why we come together, the shared goal, vision, mission. And, you know, especially when you add the overarching sort of like make the world a better place, you know, thing, you know, meaning that we're, you know, that there is that sort of shared value on top of those things.
Yeah.
And those are the things that hold us together, the bonds that hold us together. And yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I get it's getting me a little pumped up here. I know we could go, but like just to say like that, to me, it's like if we can get that, no, it's taking a little while to get it going. Right. But if we have like a Zoe offering and a Rob offering, a Newman offering, a Natalie offering, and we're running that, together, if we are right, because if I'm doing that myself, it's I've got to get it all, I got to bootstrap it all myself. But if we start to have 3, 4, 5, and we're all working within the same network, then there's no way that that's gonna be anything but helpful, for everybody bumping themselves up. I just don't, like it just seems like it's a winning strategy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's, and then we're able to progress, like in a, it seems like in a very natural way, right? Which is like, at a certain point, this is what we want. Zoe's like, I'm maxed out. I got people who want to work with me and I don't, and I'm getting paid like what I want to get paid. And I'm having to turn away clients, and then that says, right, and then Rob is saying that too, right? And then we're saying, all right, good. Now what that means is, we've got to bring in more people. We got to combine. We got to bring in bigger packages.
Awesome.
So one step at a time. But there's ways now when we're talking about this where it's starting to take shape.
Yeah. I dig it, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. High fives.
All right, y'all.
All right, well, thanks everybody for
time.
Thanks everybody for showing up, and yeah, let's just keep doing our things. Anybody else have any parting words?
I really good times. I love Tuesday. I look forward to it.
Me too.
All right.
Thank you all. All right, I'm gonna go move
out there on the board. Yeah.
Hey, everyone.
Thanks. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye,
Thanks for showing up, everyone. Thanks, Natalie and Jaquan and Zoe and Newman and Zoe Bucks.